What's going on, everybody out there, Lamont at large? Today, we're in Culver City, California. We're gonna talk about the murder of Carl Switzer. This guy right here played Alfalfa on Our Gang. We're gonna visit a couple locations of note. We're starting off right here at what once used to be 8822 Washington Boulevard here in Culver City. This location used to be Hal Roach Studios, and they are the ones that produced and directed and filmed all of the Our Gang shorts. Well, most of them anyways. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about Alfalfa. We're gonna talk about the jerk face that he was and the antics and all of the nonsense that this dude would pull off of the filming, all the terrible pranks on these people. Let's get right into the story. Alfalfa. Once I explain, you'll pretty much figure out why he got shot twice. Now, originally, Our Gang, or if you want to call them the Little Rascals, I think that's what they were named later on. Originally, they started back in 1922. At that time, of course, there's no sound in any of the movies, so it's just a bunch of little kids in the early 20s just getting into trouble or just doing what kids normally do. Now, as the popularity of Our Gang continued to go on, you got a lot of people in the country who want to get their kids on this trip, on this Our Gang thing. And a lot of times people are looking at it like this. If I can get my kids in the movies and then maybe they can make a lot of money, make us a lot of money, can get us out of a bad predicament, whatever, right? So when they would do casting calls, a lot of times here and in Hollywood, you would have the street just lined up 700-800 people with their kids because they think their kids are the cutest, the most talented, the best singer, whatever, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And one of those parents that thought that their kid or kids were talented were the Switzers. Now, Carl Switzer, he was born in Paris, Illinois on August 7th, 1927. Now, according to the story, they came out on a trip to visit their family here in the Los Angeles area. Now, of course, I'm gonna suspect that the Switzers thought that their kids were very, very talented. So they brought Carl and his older brother Harold to these, Hal Roach Studios to audition. Now, at the time, there is no open audition, but just by dumb luck, Hal Roach Studios, they used to have an outdoor cafe. It was called Our Gang. And this cafe was open to the public. So the father or the mother, whoever is the one that's putting Carl up and Harold up on this, they have them start singing and dancing for all of the patrons for this cafe. And they start singing and doing this and doing that. And guess who's there? Guess who's there of all the people? Guess who's there? Just guess, just guess. Hal Roach himself. He sees Carl and Harold basically singing and dancing and people, and they're getting their attention. And, Hal is looking at these two kids and he's like, well, they got something. Well, it was more Carl than Harold. So later on, he called them in for an audition. And, Carl, he floored them with just his spunk and his character. Harold, not so much. They signed both of them, but Harold wasn't a focal point in any of the Our Gang shorts. It was only Carl. So Harold, he would be relegated to like background scenes and stuff like that. But all of a sudden now you got Carl Alfalfa Switzer, who is, I don't want to say overnight a big star, but very, very quickly, this guy would steal the spotlight away from George McFarlane, who played Spanky on Our Gang. So he used to be the most famous one. And now, quickly, it turns into Alfalfa. But little people know that Alfalfa, man, behind the scenes, this guy was a freaking jerk face. Now, Carl, we're just gonna call him Alfalfa from now on, because practically everybody called him that. So he would be on our gang from 1935 to right at around 1940. So for 5 years, this guy, from the age of 7 to about 12, he's a very, 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 very big star here. And a very, very big you-know-what. This guy would play pranks. I would even call these pranks. These are not pranks. This is just being pure evil and a little snot. Let me tell you the kind of nonsense this guy would do. So as the Our Gang shorts are coming out in theaters, he's getting more and more popular. And they had a rule on set at the Hal Roach Studios. All of the Our Gang kids had to go to school for 3 hours a day, and Alfalfa would be held after class because he would act up during the lessons, and the teacher would make him, sit there and do whatever. So they would hold up filming. He would hold up filming for all the other kids because he's acting the fool in class. One time he put fish hooks in the pants of George McFarlane, who played Spanky. And when he went to put them on, or he sat down, they dug at his backside. He actually had to get those removed at a doctor, and he had to get a couple stitches. One time, his on-screen girlfriend, Darla, he told her that he had a ring, and it was a really special ring that he had gotten from a Cracker Jack box, but it was in his pocket. So she stuck her hand in the pocket. Little did she know that he had a pocket knife, and it was very sharp, and she cut her finger on it. That's not all what this little jerk face would do. So this guy, for some unknown reason, he gets all of the other kids on the set. They all start chewing gum. They get all these wads of gum, and then he puts them all together and he sticks them in the camera on set. And the cameraman, when he seen this, he went ballistic. All of the working parts of a camera and gum is all in there. And no, we're not done. No, wait, there's more. This guy, I don't know what this jerk's problem was. I've never heard of such nonsense ever in my life, but check this out. So one time they're filming here, right? And I guess they're setting up the stage or the scene, and Alfalfa, he's getting really antsy and he's tired of it. This dude goes behind the set. Now, there's these really, really powerful movie set lights. They're like 1,000 watts. Each bulb is 1,000 watts. This little, he urinates on the lights. And when that happens, the lights explode, and it creates this very acrid cloud of just this nasty urine smell. And it's almost like not a fire, but it just smokes the place up. And he destroyed all of those lights, and they could not film for the rest of the day because of all the smoke and the stench of the dried urine that he did when he peed on those lights. This guy, I'm thinking he has mental problems for sure. About maybe 1.5 miles from our last location, our story continues. So in 1938, Hal Roach Studios sells the entire Our Gang outfit. They sell the characters' contracts, everything. They're closing up shop on the Our Gang franchise. So they ended up selling it to MGM Studios. Now, this is where MGM Studios used to be at 10202 Washington Boulevard. And unfortunately, MGM also has to buy Alfalfa's nonsense. They buy this little turd's nonsense. And him, along with all the others, they would come over here and they would start filming their movies. Now, they would love to take Alfalfa and drop him into the middle of a volcano. The only reason why they can't is because he's so insanely friggin' popular that they can't do anything. This dude is one of the most famous people in the country at the time. And he continues his stupid pranks on these very grounds where I'm standing at right now. As a matter of fact, this dude is so popular, so popular, so popular, so popular that right at these gates where I'm standing at, there was a story that just by dumb luck, Clark Gable and Alfalfa happened to be in the same place at the same time. And you know, you had a bunch of people at the time that would just kind of wait at these gates for some of these actors to come in and out of to try to hopefully get a autograph. So they come and they mob Alfalfa. They're trying to like get his autograph and shake his hand. Everybody is ignoring Clark Gable. Clark who? Who, that bum? They don't care. They wanna talk to Alfalfa. They wanna, you know, take a picture with Alfalfa, all that stuff. Well, all good things must come to an end. And the end would come, unfortunately, soon enough for one Carl Switzer, AKA Alfalfa, AKA Alfie, AKA Alf. So, in 1940, you're 12 years old, and well, he aged out. You're no longer a cute little kid. You're cute when you're 7, not so much when you're 12. So they give Alfalfa Das Boot, and he is no longer a part of our gang, AKA the Little Rascals. And so he's thrown as a young adult into the mean streets of Hollywood. We're in the backside of Hollywood right now. And he's got to find some acting work, right? And his reputation now is not the greatest because, well, it's not like he's handsome and it's not like he was a nice person. So he would, of course, get some acting work. He was in that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, starring Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. He's the guy that was dancing with Donna Reed's character, and then Jimmy butts in. And then the guy goes to him in the back and says, "Hey, I got a key." And then the dance floor opens up, and the two, as they're dancing, unfortunately fall into the pool. He would also do some other acting work as well. He was in a Bing Crosby movie, Going My Way, and he was in the 1946 John Wayne movie, Island in the Sky. Okay, and let's not forget, he played a slave in the 10 Commandments starring Charlton Heston. But there's a problem. And the problem is that everybody knows him as Alfalfa. He's been typecast. How can you get this guy into your latest film if everybody sees this Alfalfa guy? When he would go to auditions, the producers, they wouldn't even really give him a chance. All they would continuously do is tell this guy, "Hey, can you sing off key for us? Hey, remember when you were hiding from Butch? Hey, remember when Spanky put soap in your sandwich? And when you were singing in front of the class, you started blowing out bubbles and everyone was laughing at you. Can you reenact that scene? Because me and my buddy here, we find that absolutely hilarious." That's what he's getting. Nobody calls him Carl. Everybody calls him Alf or Alfie or just, "Hey, Alfalfa." Or if they see him in the street, "Hey, Alfalfa, over here. Over here, Alfalfa." I mean, this guy can't shake that role that he made so iconic. And, you know, you couple that with the fact that he was a jerk face, like I've said repeatedly, he was a jerk face. And they're not really giving him much of any chance. And when you're not really given much of a chance and you're a has-been actor, you rent an apartment down on Santa Monica Boulevard. That apartment across the street right there right in the middle of your screen, that's 6122 Santa Monica Boulevard, and that's where Alfalfa used to live. One of these rooms right here upstairs somewhere, that's where he lived, and he would peek out his window and see this street and probably think to himself, what the hell is going on? Why do I live right here? Which is not a bad place to live. I mean, it could be worse. You could be living in the gutter. But for a guy who was getting mobbed by fans and was more popular but only a fleeting moment in life, more popular so than Clark Gable, how the mighty have fallen, how far they have fallen. And I bet you that Carl would have no idea that within only about a matter of a few months of him living here, that he would wind up living somewhere else right down the block. Now listen, I know mostly my channel is of the macabre and bad news and death and more bad news and more death and so on and so forth. However, in this story, not everything is terrible. I mean, yeah, sure, Alfalfa's life sucks. Well, it doesn't suck, but I mean, this person is not a congenial guy. This is a guy that has a very, very short, and some would say a violent temper. Now, one of Alfalfa's really, really good friends was Tommy Bond, maybe his only friend. Anyways, so Tommy Bond was the guy that played the character Butch on Our Gang. So he said in an interview that if Alfalfa liked you, he really liked you. However, if he didn't like you, he hated you. Kind of sounds like a certain YouTuber that we all know and love. And that's just the kind of disposition he had. Now, of course, not everything is terrible in his life. Now, things were looking up for him in 1954. So Alfalfa goes out on a date, blind date with a woman. Her name was Deantha Collingwood. And most of you may not know who she is, but in the state of Kansas and Missouri, their family is very, very well known because the Collingwood Empire, they're responsible for building a massive amount of grain elevators and transporting grain. They're in that business. And her father at the time, Lilo Collingwood, who died in a very tragic way, he is the 5th richest man in Kansas. So you would think that, okay, Alfalfa's poor, he's not making any money. He doesn't get any residual payments from all of his time with Our Gang. None of the kids did. So he meets this girl and she says, hey, you ever heard of a place called Pretty Prairie, Kansas? He says, no. She said, that's where we're gonna live. So their family bought them a farm, gave them one of their many farms. So they would make the move out to Pretty Prairie, Kansas. Now, I've done a little bit of traveling in Kansas. There's not much to it outside of Kansas City and Topeka and Wichita and all of that. The closest city to Pretty Prairie is Hutchinson, or as the locals, the cool kids call it Hutch. And so that town, maybe there's what, 10,000 people off the top of my head? It's not a very big town. They do have a Walmart, I believe. I think they do. But anyway, so he is living the farm life now, and he is miserable. He's miserable. How do you go from living in a big city in Los Angeles where there's always something to do to some little bodunk farm town with nothing to do? By the time 4:30, 5 o'clock hits, everybody's in their home. And 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, lights out. There's nothing to do. And it's driving him absolutely crazy. Now, I'm pretty sure he could have got a job working with the dad doing something with grain, and he would have been well off and everything would have been fine. They ended up having a child together. However, he is going crazy. He can't take it anymore. So he ups and leaves. They get a divorce. It would end up being finalized in 1957. So we fast forward to around September 1958, and Alfalfa would find his way back out here to California, and now he's in Studio City. He's working a regular job. Now, by this time, 1958, Alfalfa, well, he is about 31 years old or so. He's a has-been, Hollywood has-been. He ain't doing too much in life, and he works at a bar called the Wolf's Den. We're gonna walk up to it right now. So I don't know if the Wolf's Den was his go-to for making money, but he has a couple jobs. So he works bartender at the Wolf's Den, and then he's also a dog trainer slash leader of hunting expeditions. So oftentimes they would go up to Lake Shasta, and he would just lead expeditions there or any other place in the state of California, where have you. So at this time now, he is doing his thing, but he's hoping to make his way back into Hollywood. And, you know, he would soon get his chance. He would get his big break. He's waiting for his big break. So in 1958, he does, you know, a movie, but this time it's an accredited movie. So by this time now, Alfalfa, he has just gotten a role in the 1958 movie, The Defiant Ones, starring Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier. Now, this would be his biggest role, probably since It's a Wonderful Life, right? So he filmed the movie, he's done with it, and he's hoping that the critics are gonna like it. He's noticing that people are going to finally notice him again. And while he's doing that, he's doing the hunting thing, the dog training thing. He's working right here at what once used to be the Wolf's Den at 11916 Ventura Boulevard. So he's waiting for that check. That check is in the mail, kids. That check is gonna be here any moment. He's just waiting for it, and things are financially gonna change for him, and hopefully he'll start getting some more acting work. So it's January 26, 1958. Now at that time, I don't know if Alfalfa just got off work or he's just coming to his job to get a couple drinks. I mean, the man liked to drink, right? So he leaves his job and he would go to his car, which was parked right across the street, right in front of this Firestone. So he's sitting in his car, and all of a sudden he hears a bang and the sound of glass shattering, and some of the shards of that glass would strike him in the face. And then he feels like a terrible sting in his arm. He doesn't realize it until a couple seconds later, but he's just been shot. He's like, what the hell? And he hears a car just skirting away. So he gets out of his car and he runs back into his job right there, and he calls the police. And with sirens blazing, they come right here where I'm standing and they treat his wounds. And they're like, hey, what happened? What happened? And he says, hey man, somebody shot me. And the police, they say, oh man, we'll take you to the hospital. By the way, hey, can you sing that one song, How Dry I Am?
How dry I am, how dry I am. Nobody knows how dry I am.
We really, really love that. That's a trip. Hey, Frank, hey, look who I'm talking to. Alfalfa, and he's just been shot. That's crazy. In this big city of all places, I happened to get the call to Alfalfa, who just got shot. It's a small world, ain't it? So I'm pretty sure he gives his autograph to the cops or whatever. And so he gives us information. They take him to the hospital. It wasn't a really bad wound. It was more of like a grazing wound. And so they would later find out exactly who the guy was that shot him. It was this guy right here, 30-year-old Eugene Earl Butler. Yeah, this guy right here. Hey guys, Eugene, or let's just call him Gene, not a guy to play with. This is a guy that you want to avoid. If you know of a Eugene guy like this, stay away from him. And whatever you do, do not do anything to piss him off. So they would later arrest Eugene and charge him with assault with intent to murder. Now, LAPD, they theorized that the reason why Eugene shot him was because Alfalfa was sleeping with his wife, Susan. Or it might have been it was his ex-wife. But still, I mean, if he's claiming property or whatever you want to call it, you might want to just be careful, like I've often said before to you guys, be careful who you mess with. So they arrested him, charged him, but they later dropped the charges. I'm pretty sure Eugene there, he probably had a little talk with Alfalfa about why we don't talk to the cops. And coincidentally enough, that guy had been arrested about the previous year for shooting somebody over an argument. So he shoots another guy, and however, that guy also didn't press charges because, well, he knew what was good for him. So after he heals from his wound, it would be sometime later, going into the following year, January 1959, where things would tragically end for one Carl Switzer. The next part of this story has a couple different slightly versions of what took place. So basically, pick which one you want to believe. But I believe the story goes as follows. So in January of 1959, Alfalfa, part-time bartender, part-time hunting expedition leader, part-time tour guide, full-time unemployed Hollywood actor. So he either needs to borrow a dog to go on this expedition up to Lake Shasta, as it was written in a newspaper, or he's going to train someone's dog. It depends on what you want to believe, right? So anyways, so he borrows a dog, or he gets a dog to train from this guy right here, Moses Samuel Stilts. He's a welder. He works for one of the studios, building sets, something of that nature. So this guy, Moses, who is referred to as Bud, he's not a guy to mess with either, apparently. So he borrows Bud's dog, and they go up and do their thing. And I guess a bear came out, and the dog started chasing the bear. And so the dog runs off into the woods, and that's it. The dog's gone. So Alfalfa tells Bud, he's like, hey, the dog ran off. And Bud says, well, you're gonna have to pay me the cost of replacing that dog. So Alfalfa puts an ad in a local newspaper stating there's a reward for, finding this dog. Now, this part of the story, I'm not saying I don't believe, but I don't know. Because Lake Shasta is pretty far from here. So apparently somebody actually found a dog. They'd come all the way down to Los Angeles to collect the reward. The reward was $35. So they show up at the bar. Alfalfa says, thank you, gives him the $35, and then he buys him $15 worth of drinks. Now, after that, later on, we moved to January 21st, 1959. So Alfalfa, he's drinking with his buddy, Jack Piot, or Piot. And they start talking about that $50. And Alfalfa says, you know what? That guy actually owes me $50 for that reward because it's his dog's fault that he ran away. So he should have paid the reward, not me. I'm imagining now that he has not got the check for that movie role in The Defiant Ones. And he's hard up for cash. And he's drunk. And he has a short temper. And he's angry. And his friend Jack is egging him on. So they come up to this street right here, Columbus Avenue, and they make their way to the house where Bud's at. Now, at the time, Bud is living with his ex-wife, I believe, and she's with her kids. I don't believe none of the kids are his. Probably just a girlfriend type thing, friends with benefits, whatever they're doing. So he knocks on the door. Now, whether you want to believe certain stories or not, whether Alfalfa pretended he was the police, whatever the case might be, they made their way in the house, and Alfalfa tells Bud, hey, you owe me that $50. And Bud says, I don't owe you anything. They start a fussing and a fighting, and Alfalfa grabs this decorative crystal quartz clock and just bashes Bud upside the head with it. Bam! And well, Bud, he's dazed. So he immediately runs into his room because he has a .38 caliber revolver that he keeps in the closet for times such as this, when somebody comes just barging in your house. So he grabs the gun, and according to the story, Alfalfa, well, he brings a knife to a gun party. And that's not what you want to do, especially when you're going in somebody's house. So they start wrestling, and Bud shoots him one time in the lower abdomen / groin area. And Alfalfa realizes he's been shot, and he crumples to the floor. Now, they would later call the police, and they, of course, call the ambulance, and they arrive to that home right there in the middle of your screen, and they see that Alfalfa is bleeding profusely. So they would cue the siren effects, thank you. And they would rush him to the hospital, the closest hospital, but he died just as they were pulling up. And this home right here was the home that's supposedly haunted now. This place is supposedly haunted by Alfalfa's ghost, but this is where our gang's Alfalfa, TV character, this was where he was shot and killed. So after the police spoke with Bud, they did either arrest him or they took him into custody. And he gave his version of events. The kids that were there at the time, they gave their version. The ex-wife, who I believe was there, she gave her version, and Jack, he gave his version. Of course, Alfalfa can't give his. And they later determined that this was nothing but a case of self-defense. You got a drunken man coming over here angry, has a violent temper, and he paid for it with his life. And he would never get to live to see how, you know, the movie The Defiant Ones would turn out, or how popular he would become later on in, you know, with the syndication of Our Gang. And he could have made, you know, Alfalfa, this guy Carl, he could have made some pretty good coin just doing trade shows, doing autograph signings and stuff like that. But not saying he would have been able to make a living doing that, but he never got to live to see how truly much of an impact that character Alfalfa had on many, many people growing up, many, many different generations of children all over the world. And here we are at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, only a block away from where Alfalfa used to live. And here is his final resting place. Killed over a $50 debt that was not owed to him. And he's buried next to his dad, George, and his brother right here, Harold. He's the one that came out with him. And he's got his own tragic story that we might cover on my other channel in a future video. But nonetheless, just one of those weird Hollywood stories that, you know, people won't forget because, you know, Carl didn't know that, his character Alfalfa would go down as being one of the legendary characters in television history. And, you know, it would be many years before our gang would become even more popular in syndication. So rest in peace to all the Switzers. I don't know where his mother is. She might have been cremated and just buried next with her husband. I'm not really sure. But rest in peace to all the Switzer family. Okay, guys. I'm out of here. It's another story. Many, many stories. Too many stories. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.